Agenda room, do you got me?
Sorry, I'll make up for
Do Commissioner, and I am unmuting the agenda room, and the camera is on as well, just for the
Thanks so much.
people in the room.
I was like for a semester and a half, yes.
That's talent. But fun or traumatized?
4-year-old was all about supremacy.
Yes.
2-year-olds.
Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Starting to get a little shaky.
I had to get a couple more chairs in here. How? This is amazing. Today we're raffling off the new car.
I hope so. If it's not.
Have to be in attendance to win. Did we go back in time because Commissioner Gunn is here? Am I in your chair here? Or?
Chairman, he did it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, come on, just make sure. Yeah,
Good morning, everyone.
how are you?
Hey there, I need to make some black tights. Where did you find them? Sorry, morning, Jerry. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How y'all? Good morning, Madam Hall and Mr. Chairman. I'm good, thank you.
Commissioner Holzman on the line.
I haven't heard from Commissioner Cookmeyer. I don't know if he's going to be unidentified.
No, we'll give it a few minutes here.
Hey, Mr. Chairman,
All right, Commissioner, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Commissioner Hahn and I were talking a little earlier. You know, the Kansas City office looks great. It's been cleaned. I'm going to do some wall art here next couple days, and we were talking about maybe having all the commissioners take a field trip over to the St. Louis side to help clean that office up and get it back into shape. So at some point in time, maybe we should talk about having a commissioner's field trip to the St. Louis office.
What do you mean cleaning it up?
Well, I was
On
under
the
the
trip,
impression,
will we be stopping by my house? Bringing
I
a
was under the
broom?
impression that the office itself may have had some files and things and other things that
Oh.
needed to be cleaned up.
Administrative cleaning,
Yes,
not manual cleaning.
either or, Commissioner, whatever needs to be done.
Count me in.
And when you say you're going to be creating some wall art, are you painting like a mural on the wall or?
No, I've been working with the archives, the state archives, to get some photos of like Bagnell Dam and some other around the state photos that we can frame and put up here, so it looks like you know, it's a state office.
So you're gonna hang some damn pictures?
I'm gonna take some damn pictures. Yep.
And does that mean Christie's been working with the state archives?
Anytime that's the case, Maida, you know that's true.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I'm actually going to. So you know, it used to be when we were in the legislature, they had framed art that you could get and you know, swap out and trade, and we asked for that, and we were sent a file full of JPEG art that we could sort through, and I suspect that we're going to have to print them out and find frames for them and do all that. So that's the job at this point.
We appreciate you beautifying that office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it looks like Commissioner Kolkmeyer has joined us, so we have a full contingent of commissioners. And today is the 13th of December. So we'll go ahead and call to order the agenda meeting for December 13th, 2023. Just to remind those that are on WebEx or on the phone, to please mute yourselves unless you are planning to talk so that others can hear the ones that are speaking. Today, we got 5 tariffs and new orders and a presentation from Ameren, Missouri. But before we dive into that, we need to approve the minutes from the December 7th, 2023 agenda. Those have been distributed in advance. Commissioners, are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll make a motion. We go ahead and approve the minutes from the December 7th, 2023 agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those have been approved 5-0. The heading right on in to tariffs and new orders, we have file number WA 2023-0450 in the matter of the application of Confluence Rivers Utility Operating Company, Inc. for authority to acquire certain water and sewer assets and for certificates of convenience and necessity. So back on June 30th, Confluence filed an application seeking authority for it to acquire and operate the sewer systems of Russell Valley Estates, Inc. and Mappaville Meadows, as well to acquire and operate the water and sewer systems of Chevron/Sierra Land Company, LLC. Confluence also asked for a certificate of convenience and necessity for those water and sewer systems. On the 28th of November, staff of the commission filed its recommendations to approve the transfer of assets and to grant a CCN with certain conditions. And based on the application and staff's recommendations, the commission concludes that the factors for granting a certificate of convenience and necessity to Confluence has been satisfied, and that with the conditions set out by staff as amended, it is in the public interest for Confluence to provide water and sewer service to the customers served. So thus, the commission will authorize the purchase of assets and grant Confluence the CCN to provide water and sewer service within the proposed service area, subject to the conditions described by staff as amended. And I would recommend that we approve this order, version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
All right, Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kochmeyer.
I support the order.
Commissioner Hahn.
I'm also in support, and I appreciate Confluence continuing to agree to the conditions relating to customer experience. And at some point, I'll stop talking about it. For now, I'm going to keep going.
Oh, no, you got to just keep beating it and beating it and beating it until they hear it.
Until they're
And then you
reincarnated.
beat it and beat it again. Excellent. Well, thank you, guys. We'll go ahead and all those in favor of approving that order, version number 2, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. File number EO 2024-0144. In the matter of the joint application of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren Missouri, and Consolidated Electric Cooperative for an order approving an addendum to a territorial agreement regarding service to customers in Audrain County, Missouri. On the 27th of October, Ameren Missouri and Consolidated Electric Cooperative jointly filed an application seeking commission approval of an addendum to an existing territorial agreement. Addendum number 1 would allow the cooperative to serve 2 structures within the electric service territory of Ameren, Missouri, which are both single-family homes under construction. The customers impacted by addendum number 1 are receiving temporary service from the cooperative and have submitted affidavits expressing their desire to receive permanent electric service from the cooperative. On the 29th of November, staff of the commission filed its staff recommendation agreeing with the joint applicants that approval of addendum number 1 is not detrimental to the public interest and that it makes the most efficient use of existing electric facilities and prevents an otherwise necessary duplication of facilities. No parties oppose approval of proposed addendum number 1 to the territorial agreement, and no requests to intervene have been filed. Therefore, this order will approve addendum number 1 to the territorial agreement between Ameren, Missouri and Consolidated Electric Cooperative. And I would recommend we approve this order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Okay, Commissioner Kochmeyer.
I support the order.
Great. Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Great. All those in favor of supporting that order, version number 1, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Third file today is EW 2021-0267. This is in the matter of establishment of a working case regarding FERC Order 2222, or better known as 2222, regarding participation of distributed energy resources aggregators in markets operated by regional transmission organizations and independent system operators. Back on the 8th of November, Evergy filed a motion for clarification regarding the commission's order, which partially modified the commission's 2010 order regarding ARCs filed in this docket on October 12th. The commission staff, along with Voltus Inc. and C Power, filed responses to Evergy's motion. Voltus concurred with Evergy that clarification of some points raised by Evergy would be helpful in understanding and application of the commission's order. Therefore, the commission will issue this order providing clarification to the questions raised in Evergy's motion. I would recommend that we approve this order, version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I'm in support.
Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support. I also want to thank the technical and legal staff for working hard to clarify this for those interested parties.
Thank you very much for a lot of smart people doing a lot of hard work. So we'll go ahead and make motion. We'll approve that order, version number 2. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up, file number EF 2022-0155. Matter of the application of Evergy Missouri West, Inc. for financing order authorizing the financing of extraordinary storm costs through an issuance of security utility tariff bonds. On November 1st, Evergy Missouri West filed a motion requesting an order nunc pro tunc to correct an internal inconsistency in the commission's amended report and order. Ordered paragraph 9, imposition and collection, is not consistent with the ordered paragraph 8, approval of tariff, in the commission's amended report and order concerning how partial payments are addressed. Evergy Missouri West has requested that the commission correct its order by striking the inconsistent sentence from ordered paragraph 9. Evergy Missouri West motion expressed that the staff of the commission did not object to the request. The commission set a time for any responses to Evergy Missouri West motion, but received none. Therefore, the amended report and order issued November 17, 2022 is corrected nunc pro tunc as set forth in the body of this order. I would recommend that we approve this order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I'm in support.
Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Okay, all those in favor of supporting that order, version number 1, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Final file and order today is file number EA 2023-0286. Matter of the application of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren Missouri, for permission and approval and certificates of public convenience and necessity authorizing it to construct renewable generation facilities. On the 7th of December, Ameren Missouri filed its third motion to amend procedural schedule, in which it proposed an amended procedural schedule agreed to by all parties except the staff of the commission. On December 8th, staff filed a reply with a proposed procedural schedule that varied slightly from Ameren Missouri's proposed schedule by adding an additional day to each of the 3 posted hearing deadlines. On December 11th, Ameren Missouri responded that they had no issue with staff's proposed schedule. So therefore, the commission will adopt staff's proposed amended procedural schedule as to the revised deadline dates. I recommend that we approve this order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Great. Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Great. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I'm in support.
And Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Great. All those in favor of supporting that order, version number 1, please say aye.
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 That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Well, why don't we go ahead and go through our scheduling, and then we'll have Ameren Missouri do their presentation so that we'll have that out of the way. Today, immediately following the adjournment after Ameren's presentation, we have a USB meeting, and looking forward to that. Monday, the 18th of December, we have an evidentiary hearing in WC 2023-0142, Michael A. Goad. Michael A. Goad complainant versus Missouri American Water Company respondent. That'll be at 9 a.m. in room 310, Commission's headquarters on the 18th of December. Thursday, December 21st, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Thursday, December 28th, agenda at 10:15 a.m. Thursday, January 4th, 2024, agenda at 10:15 a.m. and an evidentiary hearing in EO 2024-0035, the matter of the application of Judith Turner Davis for change of electric supplier to Platte Clay Electric Cooperative from Evergy, Missouri West. That'll be in room 310 at 11 a.m., Commission's headquarters. Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. We have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Commissioners, any changes or corrections or any additions or to the schedule that we need to address?
One question, the hearing for Missouri American, we're not doing the case discussion today because we had removed it from agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hearing none, that will, and if there's something does come up, please communicate it with our office. And historically, if there's nothing on the pressing on the 21st of December, we have a tendency of possibly canceling that hearing sometimes.
28th.
21st,
The
28th.
28th. Well, we don't have anything on the 21st either, so. But we'll play that by ear. Just throwing it out there. So just giving me the side eye. All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys for that. We'll go ahead and we'll ask Ameren Missouri to come on up and do their presentation. We will adjourn after their presentation, and then that will signify the beginning for the USB meeting to start for all those that are listening online that are going to be joining us for the.
Oh, sorry, got all my
Scoot over here.
papers.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners on the WebEx. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here this morning. We want to make a presentation regarding our smart energy plan investments and talk about those benefits to our customers. And so we appreciate you allowing us to be here. As you know, my name is Gay Suggett. With me this morning, I also have Ryan Arnold, who is Vice President of Operations, and Joe Wondolowski, who is Senior Manager, Capital Planning and Energy Distribution Strategy. So we will go through this presentation. Please stop us at any time because we want to have a conversation. So if there's any questions you have as we're going through, we're happy to stop and to visit with you about those. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Gay, and thank you, commissioners, for allowing us to join you. And I promise we'll be succinct, but hopefully add value to you today. So just want to start real quick. So we started in 2019 with our smart energy plan. So it's 2023. So we're finishing our first 5 years of our smart energy plan as we look forward to the next 5 years of our smart energy plan for our customers. So basically what we wanted to do today was kind of give a, oh, sorry. Yeah.
1 second.
Thank you for asking.
Thanks.
We're passing out the our presentation. Yep. So sorry about that.
So did that gentleman pose for this presentation, or is that a stock photo from him?
It's a stock photo.
Stock photo.
Pretty good picture though, isn't it?
Sure. You got the thing in the background that's kind of blurred out what he's doing, then he's looking off into the future.
Looking up into the future. Yes.
Future.
Yeah, so to the future we go. So we also wanted to, just share the progress we made along the way and the value that we believe that it's brought to our customers and to our communities. And so Joe is going to walk you through the presentation, and along the way, obviously ask questions at any point if you have anything, and I'll chime in where I see need to. But once again, appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, again, thank you, Commissioner. So really, I think about the Smart Energy Plan we started in 2019, right? And why even start Smart Energy Plan? I think about our grid, and this is really no different from the rest of the country, but the grid really was largely built out the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, air conditioning, suburban build out, industrialization, and you think about how far back that is. We're 50 to 70 years in now to that grid that was built out at that time. We've got an aging grid. These assets have really served our customers well over that time. Reliability has been solid, but largely as we built it out, we then went into kind of a maintain and operate strategy, not so much an upgrade strategy. And as we looked at it and said, we're really kind of reaching the end of this useful life on these assets, we said, it's time to start thinking about when do you go to that next generation of the grid, in a sense, to get it ready for the next 50 to 70 years. And as I said, reliability was solid for our customers. But the risk you run is that if you let that go too far, you let that grid get too old, at what point does that reliability risk start to go down into where you have too many really failures of assets to keep up with, and so that you don't have that kind of wave of aging infrastructure build up on you. So that's why we started the Smart Energy Plan. And you can kind of see in the graph there, the pie charts up top. that we have, again, a number of assets that are past useful lives that we show. You might ask yourself, you see the average age up top, that the average age of the assets is below the expected life for a number of these. But that doesn't mean that just because you got, like I said, 150 substations past their useful life, those being old does not get any better by you have a number of subs that are newer. So even if the average age is below the useful life, we still have a lot we have to address. And so really we went from this operate and maintain strategy to this upgrade strategy, increasing investment to address this. We also know our customers, they don't tolerate outages. 15, 20 years ago, people might have understood that if a storm rolls through, I'm going to be out, or I may just experience outages. Our residential customers don't tolerate it with the advent of work from home from the pandemic. Our industrial customers, with so much digitization in their processes and their assembly lines, even the smallest blink in talking a second or two is enough to throw off the entire plant for an entire day. So customers' expectations are reliable power all the time, really. And so we have to get ready for that. We had to upgrade the grid to get ready for that point. And really just the next 50 years, I think a lot of these investments we're making, no regrets investments. Even as you hear probably a lot about the grid changing, the grid of the future, two-way power flow, DERs, all of that. What we're doing today is needed just for the basic, movement of electricity across the grid, just as it's done for 100 years. It also will have us ready for those future needs, but really it's kind of those no regrets investments of just getting ready to continue reliably serving. You can see at the bottom, the way that chart to read it is, so where I say pre-SEP forecast, before we set out for this smart energy plan, kind of this change in strategy, that's what we were planning to invest per year. So $200 to $230 million a year is kind of that maintain strategy. You can see we've gone to almost 3x now in 22 and 23. And I think you'll continue to see us invest at those levels. We put our annual filing out every February with our 5-year plan. You'll see us stay at those levels. And you may be asking yourself, well, how are you guys done? 5 years in, is that enough to get the grid upgraded? Even another 5 years of SEP, is that enough to get the grid upgraded? It's really not. We have likely 20 to 30 years ahead of us of investments to make. And just one example I'll give, you look at that underground category on kind of the right-hand side, that's our underground cable. We have 2,800 miles today beyond its expected useful life in the ground that has not been addressed. We can upgrade 70 to 90 miles a year. So right there is 30 years of cable in the ground today past its useful life that needs to be upgraded. And that doesn't account for really that 9% in yellow that in 5 years will move into the red category or anything else. So the way to think of it is the aging curve before this was really climbing up, up, up. What we've done is we've kind of flattened it. We've not yet taken that curve and bent it down, but we're happy to at least have kind of blunted the impact and the aging that was taking place.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So your increased investment, is that increase of assets, or is that just the increased cost to maintain your original plan?
It's new assets going on the grid. So substations before the plan, we would build 1 or 2 new substations a year in reality. Now we're somewhere between 20 to 30 a year. So it is new assets going out on the grid.
I think the question though that I heard was, are you just adding more to your fleet? Kind of is what I heard.
Well, it's more like, with inflation,
Yeah.
the cost of everything,
Yeah.
is this actual more assets on, or is it just it's costing you more, so you're expending more dollars to do your original?
Yeah, good question.
It is more assets. We are no doubt seeing the impacts of inflation. One example is in our substations, like the big transformers that we put in there. We'll say 2019, 2020, we were about $2 to $2.5 million per transformer. We've seen that price double. So it does, with the inflation, it flows to us, and it does limit a bit how much we can get done. But thinking back to 2018, there are more assets going out there. It's not purely just an inflation impact that's being realized in these dollars.
Thank you. And then the second question I had is with the increased technology, is the expected life of the new asset you're putting in, is that comparable to the older assets, or are they more sensitive with less years of projected
life. I think it's at least comparable. If not, I think we hope a bit longer.
Yeah,
with these.
Yeah, I think just for a few examples, if we go to substations and go to what we call the relay side of it, kind of the brains of the substation, it's electrical, mechanical today. So it's really a mechanism now that as you shut the door wrong today, it can fail and actually cause an outage. This is a microprocessor basically that just, basically requires updates from time to time. It has no electrical mechanics to it, actually. It's just more of the brain of it, kind of like a computer type thing. So I think more of like software upgrades versus like an actual physical component to it. The intent there is that it should last longer. The other piece of it, like a substation, it's all self-enclosed, which we'll kind of show here too as well. It's not exposed to the weather as much as it used to be. And then when you think of our hardware assets and other assets, we're eliminating kind of like wood cross arms, putting them with polymer. We're doing composite type poles versus wood poles and structures like that. Our intent is that it's going to last longer than the average age is that, but I think the industry will help kind of show us that through that as we continue these investments.
Cool. Thank you. Questions? Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So we talked about kind of the strategy, the why behind it. Thought we would show you some visuals and we say the grid is aging and, what does this new upgrade look like compared to previously? So on the left, what you see there, kind of two things. We have a failed pole here. We have a failed cross arm in this instance, and this actually caused customer outages. When you have something like this happen, could be hundreds or thousands of customers that are out. And essentially what you're seeing here is the insulator. So kind of those columns that you see on each side of that cross arm. One of those had failed. The electricity had tracked through the cross arm to the pole, and over time heated it up until the cross arm actually burned and broke into two pieces. And the wire or the conductor then touched the cross arm beneath that, causing an outage. What I'd also like to highlight is when you look at that visual on the left compared to on the right, the new standard being on the right, just the number of pieces of hardware that are up there. So really on the left, for each of those kind of three phases that you see on the pole, there's 5 different pieces. So there's the cross arm, kind of those 2 supporting cross arms that make a V, and then both of the insulators on each side. Just increase the number of points of failure that can take place, that something can go wrong. You look at our new standard on the right, what you see is really a bigger, stronger pole, and the insulators are bolted directly onto the pole. So you decrease the number of failures. Ryan just talked about the polymer insulators we're using. As we go through, we're using bigger, stronger poles. Every 5th pole going with a composite pole, which those can withstand even higher winds. Another benefit of those, and we'll show you here in a video in a bit with those composite poles, is what it helps prevent is, when say a tornado hits a line, it might knock 1 or 2 poles down, but as those go down, the weight creates a domino effect. You lose more and more and more. You can have a mile of poles down when the impact was very small. Those composite poles blunt that domino effect, so you only lose a couple poles, faster restoration. We also use, and we're going to video on this, where needed in kind of high wind corridors, it's called T2 conductor, and it's really 2 pieces of wire wrapped around each other, and it's wind resistant. You're going to see it in action to where it does not impact it, ice resistant, so really hardening the lines to benefit our customers. And then the last thing in our overhead system is the use of smart switches that we put out there, and those, what those are out there to do is they can detect an outage literally as it happens and reroute power around the grid to bring customers back on quickly. We saw a lot of benefit in our storms this summer and in previous summers in terms of how many outages it can prevent. You go from being out for hours or days to a blink. So great benefit there with those. Next, we'll just show you the underground cable real quick. So the pictures on the left, think of this as the cable that really running through a subdivision, serve your residential customers. Because a lot of it's been in the ground 40, 50, 60 years. The trick is, or the kind of what we run into from a degradation standpoint is when this was originally designed so long ago and put in the ground, it was designed with part of the wire, the neutral cable actually wrapped around the outside of the protective jacket. What you have now is you've got this copper wire, and it was also then directly buried in the soil. So soil right on top of it. You've got the wire in direct contact with soil for decades. And what that's done is it's degraded the quality of the wire to the point that the wire is almost completely eaten away at times, causes customer outages. So we're going through addressing that cable. What we've also learned is, before I said we're in that maintenance strategy, we would go through and fix a fault. Or if you had an outage, you'd go through, find the portion of line that was damaged, cut it off, splice in a new piece. What we've learned though is once one piece of cable within a subdivision fails, we're likely going to be back there relatively soon with additional failure points on that cable. So as soon as we see one failure, we make a project to address that entire subdivision, come in all at once, dig it up, and set those customers up well for decades to come.
I think to add to that, the customer experience in that is poor. So as you think about, we come and dug up your yard, we fixed it, and they're like, okay, thanks. And then we come and dig up maybe their yard again or their neighbor's yard, and then we dig up again. And we really learned along the way. I mean, the customer will tell you, you know, how you need to operate. And I think we learned along the way that that wasn't the right way to operate. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find any, oh, go ahead, please.
How do you locate the damaged wire underground?
Yeah, I'd be glad to answer that. So, you know, we'll have an outage and we'll go and respond. And basically we isolate the bad cable. We know basically from transformer to transformer, we can at least know that piece. And then to your question of, okay, where do you know in the ground?
Mm-hmm.
We have equipment that we can actually hook up to it. It sends a signal down the existing cable. We actually put on headphones, earphones, and then we have kind of like almost like a wand type thing. And it'll send kind of like a thump to it. So it sends like a DC charge to it. And then we go and then we just listen to it in the ground. And sometimes you actually got to put your head down to the ground and then you find it. And then that's the other piece of it is, you know, you got to go through all that. And so in our, you know, in our new world where we put conduit in, if that cable would fail, you'd pull the old cable out and just pull new cable in. You're not taking up somebody's yard. You're not doing all that. But it's a tedious process in the industry to go find it, but that's kind of how we do it. So there's a lot to that. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Is there any different soil compositions that you see are degrading faster? That, you know, there's like a very high clay area that's going to degrade faster than
Rock.
rock.
So we have a, you know, a decent amount of rock throughout the state, you know, especially if you think of Lake of the Ozarks. We've seen a lot of degradation there. You're basically landed in rock almost there. So conduit has really helped, you know, somewhat within the Jeff City area. This area here is kind of also got some of that. St. Louis, not as bad as far as like rock, but I'd say the rocks have usually been kind of the key piece. And then construction, whenever it was put in, if rocks fell back into the ditch and then they settle on that, creates holes.
And so Ryan mentioned, you know, the use of the conduit now, that's what you see on the bottom right. In addition, the cable design today does not have the wire exposed on the outside. It's within a protective jacket. So you've almost got a double layer of protection now, and that it's a better design of cable today, in addition to going in kind of that gray conduit you see on the bottom right. And then quickly on the top right, I'll just touch on. So this is the lead or the cable that really is in our downtown St. Louis system. We're going through a full upgrade of downtown St. Louis. We expect to actually be finished with that by the late 2020s. It's been ongoing for about 10 years now. But going through there, and I talked about infrastructure that's 50 to 70 years old in a lot of the system. What's in downtown St. Louis is pushing a century old. So that is really time to address that. And what you see here is a picture of this lead cable. And what this essentially has is the conductors within it, and there's this paper wrapped around the conductor, and it's filled with oil. And that oil is meant to flow back and forth to kind of keep this electric safely flowing. Over time, that begins to degrade, that begins to leak out. The lead that surrounds it becomes very brittle. And you think about it as the seasons change, hot and cold, and it expands and contracts, that starts to break. These fail. They become very dangerous for our coworkers to be in a manhole working on, to the point I think right now we have to de-energize, right?
We do de-energize.
And work on them. So danger in terms of it's leaking the oil, danger for our coworkers, and just not as reliable for our customers. The last asset I wanted to show our substations, the upgrades we're making there. We think of our substations really as kind of the heart of our system, if you will. If you look on the left, what you see is just a lot of it is exposed to the elements. So whether that's weather, we actually have a lot of problems with animals getting in here. Snakes are a challenge for us. Just presents a lot of opportunities for something to go wrong. Ryan mentioned even the relays that we use. Those would be in kind of that metal enclosure on the bottom left. The old ones being a matter of if you go in that building, you shut the door the wrong way, you can cause an outage on the line. So we're moving to this new design on the right. This picture of the substation, it was nearly completed. They were still finishing construction, but what really, the only thing exposed are those wires in the background. And that's what feeds into the substation. Everything else is self-enclosed, much safer for our coworkers when they have to go in there for maintenance. There are smart sensors in there to help us detect when there are issues, where they are at downstream on the lines, and just more reliable for customers too, because kind of what we'll look at our substations when we design them is you try to have basically 2 transformer units in there to where if something goes wrong with one of them, either upstream or downstream, can you transfer all that load to the other one that's sitting there? So that again, customers, they might experience a blink, but it's not an extended outage of hours or days. So really, excited to continue upgrading these for the benefit of our customers and just decreasing the risk. So we've seen, some still pictures. We've got a couple videos that I thought would be helpful to walk through. And Susie, I think, is going to, in our office, is going to take the presentation for a moment. We're going to look first.
You'll see.
We're hoping this works. We worked really hard to make this very concise, so.
Very interesting to see if you all could pull this out.
Yeah.
We
Or
practiced.
two.
Doing that from there and here.
The videos were so large that we couldn't transfer them, so that's why we're showing them at the office. So plus Susie's heart, she's gonna be on and
Give it a shot.
See if we can make it work. And if we can't, we just maybe we can't. You all can act it out.
Joe's really good at that.
Part of it.
Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Yeah, but I think
Trying to see if I can get rid of mine.
Or minimize yours.
Use it, stop, put that word.
In the meantime, I remember when a snake got in one of the transformers here in the Capitol and the power went out in the Capitol, and terribly inopportune timing for Ameren.
Remember that?
Yeah.
that's never a good opportunity.
Yeah.
I think we brought a picture even.
Did you? Yeah.
The snake,
Uh-huh.
the dead burn up
Uh-huh.
snake.
Yeah.
It's not a good day for our customers or the animal when it gets in there.
Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
So
All
real
right.
quick, Susie, before you hit play, so what this video is going to be about, if you remember December of 2021, there was the tornado outbreak that happened, and kind of the one big event was that Amazon warehouse just across the river in Illinois that took the direct hit. These storms actually went into one of our lines that we hardened, and Lucas Fine, our distribution operations director, is going to tell you a little bit about kind of what we experienced and the benefits. So go ahead, Susie, if you want to hit play.
She's like CPA person and she splits her stuff up. I know I wouldn't do something like Edward Jones because we've done
Susie?
things
Go ahead,
like
Susie.
You ready?
Until
Yep,
you
go ahead.
go to the portfolios that they're recommending.
You need to get to your safe place right now. Extremely dangerous storm like in southeastern Missouri.
That line of storms included an EF3 tornado. It impacted a number of our lines, one of which had been reinforced with some smart energy plan investments. These investments have really paid off for our customers. We were able to restore power in about 25 hours as compared to what may have taken up to 48 hours. Traditionally, a power line is constructed of wires held up by wood poles. And what can happen is if one of those wood poles is broken or blown over because of high winds, it can, in a domino-like effect, knock over the next pole and the next pole and the next pole, and that can make a bad situation much worse and more timely to repair. So what we did was to install higher strength poles made of composite material in an incremental basis along that new line. And so what that does is it stops that cascading outage. So we really need to continue to invest in our aging infrastructure. We need to keep improving it, to hardening it, to making it more resilient so that our customers see fewer interruptions. And when they do see interruptions, they're restored more quickly.
Yeah, so in that instance, like Lucas said, there was a line right next to it that had not been hardened. That line took 2 days to bring back up. We had this line back up in a day because of those composite poles. So, you can't stop everything when it's a massive tornado, but they help you get the customers back quicker by having them in place. And then next, we talked about that wind resistant conductor. We're going to look at that actually in action from a video a couple of years ago that our director in the Southeast Missouri took. And you're going to see lines literally each side of the road, lines that are ours and lines that aren't ours. We have the wind resistant conductor, the other ones don't. You're going to see just the line, we call it galloping, going up and down like that. So Susie, if you want to go ahead and play that other video for us. Susie, are you able to share? We still have you?
I'm sorry, I thought it, okay, is it not sharing? All right, hold on. Let's try this again.
Oh.
It's small, you've got it small, Susie.
One second.
There it is.
Let's rewind to the beginning, Susie.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. Perfect. See those lines? Yeah.
I say you can see there, those lines are literally, we call it galloping in the wind. You can hear the wind. And what that does is the weight of all that conductor is just whipping and pulling on the insulators, pulling on those poles, those cross arms where they could fall down. This is our line right here, completely still in that wind, no movement at all. And so really just reduces the risk that you have outages, even in these severe events. And like I said, not only is it wind resistant, it prevents the buildup of ice too, so that you think about that galloping and that weight. If you start having ice freeze on it, that just adds even more and more weight and stress that you're putting on those poles and cross arms that are holding them up. Yep, Susie, that's probably good. Thank you.
I have to buy that today.
Pulled it off.
A couple more slides.
Sorry.
I'm glad you're doing it.
Go back one more.
These
One
are
before
about-
this. So this shows really kind of how far we've come in the green in the first almost 4 years of the plan. A lot's gotten done. Like I said, there's still a lot to do. You can see in the blue what we intend to accomplish by 2028. Again, it's great impact, or it's a great benefit customers are seeing from this, upgrading these assets. We have a long, long way to go though, even after really the first 10 years of Smart Energy Plan. Like I said, 20 to 30 years. We need to keep addressing these assets so that we don't see a buildup on the system of these age assets and start running into a risk around reliability.
How much on your underground cable mast, how much of existing above ground are you putting into underground? Or is that not included?
It's really pretty limited how much we do taking overhead to underground of existing infrastructure. We tend to reserve that for when it is some of the worst reliability on the system, and we just don't see another way to address it besides going underground. It is a bit more costly going underground. There is becoming more and more parity with underground versus overhead. If you think about a 40 or 50-year lifetime cost and the O&M that you don't have to spend for veg management, the rebuild cost of a storm hitting it. We're not quite there yet, I would say. We're looking at it though, but a lot of it is we're still sticking with building the overhead system.
Is there any municipalities that have ordinances that are trying to mandate underground? And if so, how?
That's a great question. I don't think they're mandating. So any new subdivision we do underground. That's actually something we kind of require along, which usually we don't have issues with. There's an occasional where maybe there's a subdivision that there's 5 homes in a rural area where they just don't see the need to it, and we do that. But for the most part, all of our new subdivisions are all underground, all in the conduit. They mandate pole heights. They'll mandate, cell tower types. If we have technology that may mandate what that looks like and the height and stuff like that. But we haven't had off the top of my head, I don't know of one today that mandates that it must be underground. Thank you.
I read an article by S&P yesterday or day before that mentioned how the investment banks view upgrades, physical upgrades as a result of weather events as a positive. And for those utilities that have a lot of extreme weather events, whether it's wildfires or tornadoes, they're, being downgraded in some cases. So what's your experience with that kind of do you have experience with the investment banks on their view of where Ameren is and
As
the,
far as our communities and stuff, or as far as?
no, has there ever been any questioning of your infrastructure reliability as a result of extreme weather risk? With
Oh, I
investment
got you.
banks?
In the investments we're making. I think,
No,
No,
she still got it. It's
it's
just.
okay.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is, does Wall Street, how do they view your investments in Smart Energy Plan? Have they ever mentioned things to you or to the utility about the reliability of your infrastructure as a result of extreme weather?
With you now. So I'll go on one that it's more, I'll take weather out just for a second, but I think I get to it. So we mentioned the underground network in downtown St. Louis. There's actually a Wall Street Journal article about that within the industry that talked about kind of the hazard of that and needing to get it off the system, and are utilities making and escalating that investment soon enough? So it actually was that, and that played into our investors asking the same question: what are you doing? And it played into the board: what are you doing? We had a good plan to tell them because we've been doing it for 10 years already. So our investments were there, which was nice. I think on the weather piece, the fire risk that, California sees, we recently did get asked that question: what is your risk overall? We did the study on it ourselves actually, and found out, that one of the areas, Lake of the Ozarks, just due to the nature of vegetation there and the amount of vegetation, is really the true risk we have. And then based on the drought that they see, and we saw that this summer, saw it this year, some of the worst. But I think outside of that, we haven't seen from our investors any that we're not making the right investments, other than, can you do more undergrounding? And I think everybody's aware that it's 9 to 10 times the cost, and that's always a question. And you'll see where we tried to apply for that in other areas and continue to. But I think overall, the investments we've been sharing have been going over positive, other than the two of the underground. And then did you have the fire risk that everybody else seems to be talking about?
Gotcha.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't get there sooner.
No, that's okay.
All right.
I had a roundabout way of asking too.
No, that's.
So that was kind of, Smart Energy Plan, everything we're doing there. I'd like to touch kind of just quickly on storm performance this summer, our IIJA, our federal grant applications, and then just some collaboration we had with OPC and the staff last year around our SEP investments. So talking about storms real quick, it's no secret that it was a tough summer for us. St. Louis really took a beating with storms, probably one of the worst we've had in about 10 years. And it was just that it was nonstop. It was almost day after day. We'd get hit, we'd start rebuilding, we'd get hit again. So we had to just continue to recover, adjust, and respond. You can see at the bottom, 50 to 70 mile an hour winds. We had nearly 100,000 customers out at the peak during the storms in July and August. I will say that 96,000, talking to engineers who've been with the company 20, 30 years and have been through a number of storm seasons, they said that number could have easily been double in their experience. If we would have been back in the early 2000s without these investments, we would have seen probably closer to 200,000. So it was great to hear, from their perspective that it's paying off. Across the top, 55,000 customer outages prevented. That's a lot through those smart switches I talked about that can reconfigure the grid on a moment's notice. 27 million minutes out. And then in terms of the portions of the grid that we've hardened since the Smart Energy Plan started, which is about 200 miles, none of those sections of line experienced any damage during these storms. And some of those were definitely in the areas that got hit. So, it's encouraging to see that these assets are performing. I'll add too that throughout the storms, we had to put up 450 new poles, or approximately 450 new poles. To give you some context of, why does that matter? There's about 25 poles in a mile when we rebuild the line. So we're about 18 miles of line that we had to rebuild in total in these storms. We did that in 6 weeks, compared to in a year, we're doing 50 to 60 in 12 months. So we did almost 1/3 of what we do in a total year in 6 weeks safely, to get our customers back on, and just the commitment to making sure that they have power, because we know it was tough. Temperatures were in the 90s. It was hot. Some of it was over 4th of July weekend. So just a testament to the coworkers, the linemen out there in the field, getting customers restored, even in really adverse conditions.
And we still put them up to these new standards.
Mhm.
So that
Correct.
was what was good as well.
Next slide just wanted to highlight last year, some collaboration with staff and the Office of Public Counsel. And as we ramped up these investments in 2019, there was a learning curve, I think, for all of us in terms of going from that maintenance strategy to that proactive strategy, that modernization strategy. And how do we document, why we're making all these investments? And Dr. Mark and the staff, they brought up questions in our 2021 rate case saying, Ameren, explain this to us. We're trying to understand what you're doing as the investments go up. And so what we did was we had a series of meetings with them in 2022. First meeting, similar to kind of this, just to make sure everyone level sets of what's the why behind these investments that you're making as these costs or these investment numbers go up. Second meeting actually went out in the field. We saw an old substation that was 60 years old right by the Galleria in St. Louis. We saw a substation that was maybe a year and a half old. So they got to see the difference. We saw an old line. We saw one of these brand new composite poles just to show that. And then we sat down and we talked about kind of the framework that we proposed for how we would justify it. Clearly set out criteria by the different types of assets to explain here are the drivers for a specific project, listed out thresholds that the projects had to meet, and then the data that's going to support behind them. And what we're going to do with that and what we aligned to was putting these in place. And then as these projects, for any project over $1 million for our distribution system, as those go in service, we're going to proactively submit those for staff and Office of Public Counsel to review, just so there's that transparency. It was really a good exercise for us to make sure we're being transparent, clearly explaining why each investment is needed, and hopefully it'll be helpful for the other parties involved in just understanding the need for all of this.
Excuse me, Dr. Mark, have you done that with the other utilities?
Well, the Ameren case was definitely more involved than the other two utilities. We've been having the discussions with Liberty. It's also tied to a value of lost load study that was an agreed to term that we have collaborated with Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. And it's a survey going out across each of our utilities. So we're hoping that information can help inform Ameren's cost benefit analysis moving forward. It's going to be the basis for Liberty's analysis, and Evergy has submitted it in the past. We are set to go talk with them again first quarter of next year.
Cool, thank you.
This has all been very positive. I just want to echo everything that Ameren has said here. It was a very, very good experience. Nothing but positive.
We appreciate that collaboration as well.
Thank you.
And then lastly, I'd like to just touch on, you think about all these investments we're making, clearly thinking about all these investments, we understand that provides or causes upward pressure on rates for customers. And so what are some ways that we can try to blunt that or keep those rates affordable? And really kind of a once in a generation opportunity that came about was the IIJA, or the infrastructure bill that was passed in Washington, D.C. back in the fall of 2021. $1.2 trillion total, about $80 billion for the energy sector. And then there was a smaller subset of that really was targeted for utilities and kind of the transmission and distribution system. Specifically on the distribution side, Ameren Missouri made full applications for 3 different grants totaling $250 million of federal funds. I'll touch on 2 or 1. The first one we went after, actually, you had the question about undergrounding, Chairman. We proposed to go through an underground, I believe it was nearly 200 miles of line in our North St. Louis City, North County area, kind of the backlot infrastructure, a lot of vegetation. Customers don't necessarily want trees all the way cut down. Made a proposal to underground all of that to improve reliability. Unfortunately, we didn't get selected for that grant. So we're looking at when that grant comes open again for applications, which the government just issued the guidance a couple weeks ago. We're working on another proposal, adjusting what that proposal is going to look like based on the feedback we got, and we'll submit something by mid-January. So more to come there. We have another one that we applied for. It's called ERA, and kind of the goal of that was they want to see investments in rural communities of under 10,000 customers. That grant that we applied for will be about $48 million in total, essentially a 50-50 split. We submitted that back in the fall, and we actually had DOE requested kind of a post-application meeting or interview with us, which we took as a positive. We had that phone call back in November. They said they expect to have a final decision on that one sometime in late December or January. So we're still waiting to hear about that. We were really excited about, though, the one that you see on the screen. This was a grant or an application that'll be just over $100 million in total. The DOE, you can see in bold, picks up 47 million. That we're going to go really across the state, and that's what all the red dots on the map represent, the different locations. And we're going to address a number of those aging substations that we talked about in these rural communities. They are smaller communities. And for a majority of them, we're actually going to eliminate the substation entirely. And what you'll have is a pad mount transformer. So think of those green boxes that you'll see in a subdivision, you'll see around the city. We'll put those in. That replaces the substation. And then we're going to put the smart switches out there too, along the town downstream and also upstream on the line feeding into the town. You'll have one of those transformers on each side of town so that if the primary supply goes out, the smart switches will automatically kick in, reroute the power, and it'll come in from the other side of town to where we have, again, outages going from hours, and in a rural community, by the time you mobilize resources, could be days to get it totally fixed, to literally seconds. So really looking forward to getting those in. That'll run from late 24 to early 29 to build those. Again, resiliency in the grid, so that if something does go wrong, you can recover, and just new assets that'll serve these customers for decades to come. Also, just want to point out at the top, there were over 300 applicants for this grant. We were one of 34 selected. So really, really excited because it took a large team effort. These applications are nearly 100 pages long to apply for these grants. So we were excited to get one, and we're looking forward to implementing it. So that concludes everything we had. I appreciate the time, but we're happy to take any questions that we may not have covered or to clarify anything.
Questions, anyone? Commissioners, anyone online? Commissioner? Questions? Staff? Bueller?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Kochmeyer.
Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, I just want to thank Gay and her team for this presentation. It was very, very helpful, very informative. Thank you to all of you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, no questions. You must have satisfied the crowd. So,
All right.
that's
Thank
great.
you.
So, no, we appreciate the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anything you can do to keep people not having outages. I'm sure that's a pain for you all. It's a pain for them. It's a pain for us and stuff. That's great. We appreciate you investing in the system for reliability.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you
Well,
all.
that will be all the business for the agenda. We'll just go ahead and stand adjourned. And
Commissioners, the call-in number is the same for the USF meeting, but the code is different. In case you need it, let us know, please.
all right.
You got it?
Okay.
Okay,
We
thank
will
you.
See you all in un memento for the USB. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I can't
Good to see you all.
remember what
Good to
time
see
it
you. Always good to
starts.
see you, Gay. Thank you.